Dina, and how are you today? Where are you at?
Hello, how are you? I'm dialing from, I'm right now in Amman, Jordan, visiting my family.
Oh, nice. And Rohan?
Hello, Kate. I'm joining from Bangalore in India.
Thank you. It's so nice to have you here, and thank you so much for joining my hot seat session where we help companies and businesses all over the world to address their blind spots and gain competitive edge. So today we're going to talk about something that I'm actually super passionate about, which is human skills and lifelong learning. So first, my question goes to Rohan. So I think that when it comes to human skills, self-awareness plays an important role in this. So how does it actually help you developing human skills, and why are they so important for your personal and professional development?
Wonderful. Firstly, thanks a ton, Kate, for having me over on the show. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Coming into to the question, so a lot of times there are multiple skills that you would pick on the job. It could be how would you operate a machine, or perhaps how do you interact with your customers. And if I were to put it in the form of today's day and age, they could be applications that sit onto a device, right? But the base of that essentially has to be the operating system. And in my mind, that's self-awareness. So you could probably add a whole lot of applications if you would, but if the operating system in itself has not been updated, right, there could be some bugs and it wouldn't work. So from that sense, I think self-awareness is pretty much the most fundamental of human skills we should look at.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Dina, we're going to touch lifelong learning. How does it contribute to the acquisition of human skills and developing the ones that you already have?
Thank you for the question, and appreciate to be here. Well, of course, lifelong learning is the foundation of everything. If you don't have the passion to be curious, I would say, because when we talk lifelong learning, maybe not many people understand what that stands for, and it's simple words. It's anything that you self-initiate to learn more about that is element for the human as human to be curious, and also it builds up for the human skills. And I think I would add to Rohan what he said is curiosity with self-awareness. Curiosity increases. Once you become more aware of yourself, you become more curious about what's surrounding you and what's around you. So this is what once we become very interested or very keen to learn more and to continue to learning and sustainable learning, we become very curious. Opportunities can open up because your mindset will and your mind itself will grow, and there will be much more doors to open that you become, because you become curious. So it becomes that I know what I need to further build on my skills that I have. So I would say it's endless discovery when you pursue lifelong learning.
I absolutely agree about this. So now that we've discussed, we've touched some positive sides of it, but now my question to both of you, what are some challenges that individuals encounter when they try, to embrace lifelong learning and develop this self-awareness? You can even speak from your experience. Rohan, you can go first.
Sure. So, one of the things that I've observed over the years, been very fortunate to have worked in the space of helping individuals reflect on themselves, starting with me. And what's happened, however, is that no curriculum across the globe, either in school or college, does focus on this. You learn subjects, you learn science, you learn history, you learn math, but you don't quite learn or to understand yourself a whole lot. Now, the good part is, right, if you do understand that you need to explore yourself as a journey, it's not it's not an overnight thing that you get into. And as long as you have an ecosystem or an environment which asks you to think about your strengths, your challenges, what comes to you naturally, I think that helps you work through it. So I've seen the challenge is that no environment helps you do that unless you're driven from inside. But perhaps if you do operate perhaps in organizations or in an ecosystem where a whole lot of people reflect, ask themselves the questions, are curious, as Dina said, more often. So you have to chance upon perhaps an environment of that sort or some inspiration. The rest of it is all comes from within.
Thank you. Somebody in chat fully agrees with you, saying that self-awareness is key and people often underrated. Thank you. And Dina, what do you have to say about it?
Well, continuing to what Rohan said, it's definitely something comes from within. In my whole life, I mean, the journey, my life journey, the story of my life, also the thesis that I worked on in my doctorate degree, had been about the experience that humans go through in order to pursue something. And the main thing that I came out with, what I believe in, and falls into my life for those who know me and who know my journey. It does come from within. Motivation is a key thing. Not to wait, even if you are working in a company, in a corporation, you're not an entrepreneur. That does not matter, because I always say that ownership. Then it does not mean that if I have my own business, it means that I have this kind of self-motivation to get up and do and create my business or make it grow. So it is something that comes from within. So ownership can fall on any person, any human at any position. So if you the key thing for self-awareness and also for lifelong learning and the challenges is that how you self-motivate yourself. So I always say that there's something called grit, and this is something that was very much part of my research. Is that how you maintain this self-motivation for a long-term goal? Like short-term goals, you put and you say, okay, I'm going to work a bit harder. I'm going to achieve this, or I'm going to learn this so that I can get my degree or I can get my accreditation. But then when it's a long-term goal, what do you do with that? So grit can it's about how you look at the big picture and then go down into make it into chunks and it's into small pieces. But also, you alone is not enough. We are humans, and you're talking very much. I love that it's focused on human, because I believe that we have to remember at the end of the day that we are humans. So humans need each other, and one of the key things that I found is the support system. And even in my research for people pursuing a higher degree, it was the support system that was key. It could be your colleagues, your friends, your family. Look for that. People who are very, perseverance, and they are very focused. And they have sense of purpose. It's still, the support system is a key thing to overcome the challenges. Because when you are pursuing a lifelong learning and when you're pursuing this big goal, long-term goal, you need to make sure that you have, like Rohan said exactly, the right environment for that.
So, well, thank you. So you already started talking about some strategies and tips that you can use to develop lifelong learning curiosity. But let's imagine now that we're talking about the company that is pretty much aware that they need to develop their workforce. They need to develop this curiosity for learning and developing human skills. What can you advise them against strategies and tips that can help them, that can be implemented in your work to help employees consistently develop? Rohan, you can go first.
Sure. So, the learning of the past was getting into a classroom and in some way, go through a lesson and then you sort of had it. But I think a lot of what's happening over the last decade plus essentially has been learning in the flow of work. So let's imagine that there's a certain role that I've taken and I have to, get certain tasks done. How am I able to understand that while I'm working, and how am I able to apply that? And if I'm unable to apply that, I'd probably, there isn't a point to learn. And so, from an organizational standpoint, I think, it's about time that they realize that each and every employee, let's say there could be a couple of employees in the same role, let's say in the sales role, right? But they probably bring in different strengths and, probably different things that they don't possess as strengths. And, allow them to be able to learn that so that they're able to do their job well and they're able to grow, which essentially means for them to own their learning. I think what is of the past is to say that there is a curriculum and then everybody ought to go through that. But I think it is to say that, hey, here's a whole lot pretty much an analogy I can think of is a buffet being laid down, and individuals can sort of pick their, and choose what their tastes are, and then accordingly make a certain assortment that they would want, versus essentially to have a mandatory set of things. So I think that's what organizations can do. One. Second, organizations can help or support people managers in them being able to support their team members. So conversations on development, conversations on what do they need to learn, and provide an environment where they can come back and apply. A lot of times managers will come back and say, well, you've learned something, now let's get down to work, right? But it's for them to say that there's an environment where they can come in and even apply what they have. If they fail, of course, there's learning. And if they apply and it works, then of course, that's so much of use.
I absolutely agree with you. And I feel like that's exactly what we do in Gleek with our lessons. You could come anytime, you choose a lesson that is suitable for you, and you learn what you need. No curriculum, just what you need exactly. And I like this approach. Dina?
Well, thank you, Rohan, for what you have mentioned. I would say that to start with, I think that you need a strategy. You're asking about the strategies, but I think that you start with a strategy. Yes, you can come in and learn whatever you want. It's a huge platform, but it's I would say that anything that you learn, it's a stepping stone to get to the bigger picture. Even I talk to my daughter, she's a teenage, she's 14 years old, and I say you cannot pass an exam or you cannot pass a year without having a bigger goal in your visualize something bigger. Why am I doing this? Because the hard work for employees, for even business owners, for anyone, unless you have this bigger goal, then those chapters of learning become stepping stones to get there. It's not random. I'm sure everyone is like building blocks to what they want to achieve. And I agree with Rohan, it's not learning is not enough, because you also need to apply. Anything that you don't try with your own, and you don't, they tell you the first strategy is when you go and teach it to someone. But also, if you learn something, especially if it's human skill, you go and apply it in your life and see how it falls. My work with the UN agencies, especially, and also corporation, is that one thing that we do that is very important. I always add is that the leadership to be involved. It's not only about, like Rohan said, the very key thing he said is that we gave you now the training or the learning. Now go back. But this is not how it should be. It should be that they should know doing and get involved and engage with this learning gene. And this is what I do with some programs I do with the UN agencies, is that we get the managers and the supervisors involved right from the beginning of the journey up till the end, because otherwise we learn a lot. We learn every single day when we open, we have a vast media channels that we can learn every day so much, but it's only what stays and stays sustainable is what we do with this learning. So that's the strategy that I would say, is that you learn in chunks, you get your people involved, whether your superiors or your team, and learn together and apply it. And it's not random. Set a strategy for that learning. That's very important.
I absolutely like this point. Don't just start our lessons. You first need to have a strategy, and then you can apply your knowledge to be able to be successful. So before we wrap up, I'd like to answer a question from somebody from our audience to summarize whatever we were discussing now. What fundamental changes can we implement to better equip individuals with the live human skills needed to thrive in an increasingly complex world? Such a good question to wrap up.
Dina, I don't know if can I answer this? Well, it's mindset. I would say start with a mindset, whether ourselves, our own mindset, or the mindset of our team. It's there's a difference between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So the willingness to open up, to really, sometimes we hear something or someone is teaching us something and we're totally the opposite of, we disagree, it's against our values, it's, it doesn't go with what we believe in or what we have been doing for a long time. But just if we open our heart and we open our mind, the whole thing, I would say this is the fundamental of changing anything, and willingness. I never work with someone that is not willing to make the effort. So it is very important that we have, with the change of mindset, with the growth mindset, we become willing to adapt to change, are willing to see, can we do this in a different way? Can I learn a different way of doing something? Because a lot of people, why they are not able to change, although they have all the good intention, is this resistance for change and this resistance to learn new ways of doing something. Advice.
Rohan,
That's
do
what
you have
I.
anything to add to
Absolutely.
Dina?
So I want to just basically share two things. One, and both of these, I've had the opportunity to use in my life. One is essentially not really a quote, but literally something I live. Life isn't about what happens to you, but how do you deal with what happens to you, right? So there could be a whole lot of ups and downs. There could be a whole lot of challenges, but how do you look at the challenge? Are you looking at it as an opportunity to learn? Or are you looking at it as something that's kind of pulled you down, right? So that's one way for us to be able to sort of work through things. The second thing is because life really changes. Some of our audience today could be very young, but some of us who've probably been in the workspace for a while would realize that whatever they're doing today, will change tomorrow and would change, few years from now. So one of the things that will remain, common or consistent is the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? That's the second sort of mindset, borrowing from what Dina said, is extremely important. A lot of times, if you hold on to what you've learned and you think that's going to apply for the rest of your life, I think that's really not the way to go ahead. The times of I've finished my undergrad and now that for the rest of my life are gone. There are literally phases when the world would change, industries would change, and organizations, of course, would change. And if individual professionals do not change themselves through these transitions, right, then they're going to probably get extinct. So, learning, unlearning, and relearning are super important.
I absolutely agree with you. Even me, I'm only 23-year-old, recently graduated. Some of the things that I've learned in university, they're not relevant anymore. So what is left for me is curiosity and willingness to wake up every day and learn new skills that will help me succeed in my job. I absolutely agree with you. That was such a good wrap up, Dina and Rohan. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And I see our audience enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can work with Dina and Rohan to solve your human skills problems, I highly encourage you to check our caption and see where it goes. So thank you so much, Rohan and Dina, and I hope you're going to have the good rest of the day. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you. Thank you. That's
Thanks a
great.
bunch.
Thank you,
Have a good
everyone.
day and good evening wherever you're at. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.